All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Circus of Lies live stream. And on the stage, Ook just joined us. And I also have John Clark and Blarg. And for this week, we did have someone from last week's live chat, Jack Moody 5416, who said he was interested in talking to us about young earth creationism. And since he's the first young earth creationist that we will get a chance to talk to, it'll be interesting if he shows. Unfortunately, I don't know if he'll show. He hasn't sent me anything on my on the email box for this channel, so it's very well possible that he, won't join, whether because he forgot or he doesn't want to or whatever. And there was another person, a French folk. He's actually an atheist who was interested, but it's like 3 a.m. Over in France right now, so he wasn't sure if he'll make it, but we will see. All right. So that being said, John Clark, Blarg, Ook, I'm glad you're still up because you're up quite early or late, I guess.
Early, late, yeah. Bit of a mongrel week, but not been too bad. Feeling a little better. If I'm coming on too loud, I've got a new
no, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, just ignore me for a bit. I'm reaching back into antiquity to give you an Aussie joke. I'll put it in the comments.
Actually, just one comment. So Monkey, I noticed he posted something about 6 hours ago. So that would have been like an odd time if he was an Aussie. So just wanted to point that out. And speaking of jokes, I know John Clark had a joke.
So yes, this is predominantly for the Americans in the audience. But do you know why you always find coins in your couch cushions? Because J.D. Vance always leaves a tip.
I don't know if you guys know about J.D. Vance, the VP pick from Donald Trump. And I guess there's some rumor that people had started spreading about how he had, took, what was it? He took some a rubber glove and put it in between couch cushions.
First of all, this is funny because it is a rumor. It has not been established as fact. This is just one of those things that kind of gets started. But so I got the joke from John Oliver's Last Week Tonight, just so that nobody accuses me of plagiarizing. And when the folks at Last Week Tonight reached out to the J.D. Vance's team to ask them point blank whether or not J.D. Vance has ever had sex with a couch, they got hung up on, which John Oliver distinctly points out is not a denial. So we have not gotten definitive refutation of the J.D. Vance had sex with a couch story. It has not been debunked.
Well, I think it's definitely not true because initially the comment was that he said something to that effect in his book, Hillbilly Elegy, and it definitely isn't there. So I think it's just someone sort of making it up, and it kind of caught on.
It is, and honestly, the joke is going to be funny for about another week or so, and then the Trump Vance campaign will do something face palmy and or abhorrent, and this will just get forgotten. Yeah. I'm just enjoying the 15 minutes of fame that the joke and the humor is going to have.
Well, the funny thing is, in one of the speeches that J.D. Vance was giving, he had mentioned how he would bring up his wife, but then he would have to sleep on the couch. And it's like, he may want to just not mention anything about
Yeah,
how
let's
to
go ahead and
so
just
far
not
for a while.
include that quip. Yeah.
Yeah,
Another
so I think
instance
that's
where
funny.
you're not making the joke you think you are, JD.
Yeah. Well, he was trying to make that Mountain Dew joke that kind of fell flat.
Oh, good. Much like a Mountain Dew that's been left out overnight, the joke fell flat.
Yeah.
Let's not forget, though, there was the British Prime Minister and the pig.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
I do remember that.
And that one was confirmed because it was his own admission. And you go, oh, why would you say that?
Yeah.
Well, we want our politicians to be open and honest with us, and then we cringe when they're open and honest with us. So,
yeah, there's open and honest, and then there's oversharing.
yeah, okay, yeah, that's true. Yeah, all right, I can see that there's that thin line.
Well, we may have had, instead of JD Vance, we may have had Christy Nome if she had not, shared too much in her book about shooting a puppy.
Or facing down Kim Jong-un.
Oh, yeah. I don't think that was as bad as the puppy, because even Republicans don't like people shooting puppies.
Yeah,
no, you can't do that. And the goat and the horses. You just go, yeah. That's not how you get yourself elected.
Well, at least you gave it a shot.
Yeah, with Biden dropping out, hopefully, there's a bigger chance that Trump will lose.
Well, so the Biden team specifically and the conservative bobbleheads in general are really having a hard time focusing on their response to Harris, because a lot of the complaints that and a lot of the strategy that the Trump campaign had was Joe Biden is old. Now, okay, look, I don't necessarily agree with that, but at the same time, it was a completely viable strategy for the Trump campaign and folks in Fox and the conservative radioheads in general. That it made sense.
Well, and it was a valid issue.
Sure.
When you see Biden, and especially during the debate, it was obvious that age was having an impact. Even if he was sick, a younger person wouldn't have been affected as much.
Oh, no, I completely agree. And I think that it is good for it was a good thing that Biden dropped out. I think he made the right call eventually. I would have preferred that he made that call 2-3 months ago, but we are where we are.
I don't know if that's actually would have been better. I think this might be actually good timing. And that's where some of the conspiracy theory comes up, that this was done on purpose.
That said, the fact that he dropped out after Trump's team is stuck with JD Vance, that hurts.
Yeah.
Because now he's stuck with something like JD Vance was the person you choose when you want to commit a coup and you don't need to get any more votes.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
When you want to end democracy and you don't want any more votes, he's the guy for that. But when you actually need to get yourself elected, he's a bad choice. So that is really useful for them, that they're either stuck with him or Trump's going to have to drop him, and that'll hurt a whole pile as well.
Yeah. And from a timing point of view, what was important was that Biden dropped off before the DNC, that there's a time to officially nominate Harris.
And you can tell that Trump is genuinely worried about having to go up against Harris, because he's dropped out of the debate. He refuses to debate her.
It seems kind of familiar, right? Dropping out of debate and or not refusing to debate and pretending that he was definitely going to win.
Yeah, during the primary, from a political perspective, I will give credit where it's due to Trump and his campaign, in that he was double digits ahead of everybody else that had put their hat in the ring. And so debating any of them wouldn't have benefited him at all. From that perspective, I think that was a good strategic move. Now that he is, for all intents and purposes, in the general election, not debating means that he's going off of a strategy that his core base is going to be enough to get him across the finish line in the Electoral College. So he's trying to go for another victory based on the Electoral College rather than the popular vote.
I was actually referring to our commenters.
Oh, my bad.
From debate.
Sorry, I went into analyst mode. My bad.
See, there was an interesting discussion by Rachel Maddow talking about the some curious comments Trump's making recently about let's not if you're one of my supporters, don't bother voting. You don't need to. You won't have to vote in 4 years' time. You'll never have to vote again. But don't even bother now. And you just go, the don't bother now is a curious strategy for someone who wants them to get elected and is not leading in the polls by enough to be certain of that.
The only thing is, I think, I don't think Trump actually meant it that way. I think he's just saying that, after this election, I don't give a damn because I'm not going to run again. But it just came out as, he's going to destroy democracy.
Yeah.
Well, he already tried to, and if he gives up power, he risks going to jail. So there's no way Trump's going to give up power. So he really is intending on destroying democracy to maintain his power and protect him from prison, because he knows damn well he's committed all the crimes that he's accused of and lots more. But Rachel pointed out that there are approximately 70 confirmed election deniers in key election battleground states that whose job it is to certify or otherwise elections. And it seems perhaps that they've got themselves a strategy whereby they're going to refuse to certify their county, which then means the state can't certify their election, which then means you've got all these states that can't certify. Therefore, you've got to punt it to the House of Reps, and that is a win for Trump.
Yep. By the way, comment from Crystal Clout. Trump announced on Truth Social he will debate Kamala, but only at one of his rallies. So, yeah, he's scared. This kind of putting in conditions about debating, that also sounds kind of familiar that we've
a little bit
seen someone make. But the other thing that I was very surprised at is, I guess she's she who must be obeyed. So welcome, Crystal.
Yeah, that's my better half.
Hey, Crystal.
We hear she who must be obeyed often from Mook. So
yeah, that comes up. And
a little bit. Hey, one thing I noticed, don't know whether you guys have, ever since the attempted assassination, have you noticed that the right-wing godlings have been going absolutely ballistic with just everything? They've taken it to a whole new level.
I think that's just with the Harris thing, because now they're in more danger of losing.
I'm just going
by the normal. It's confirmation of the Messiah status. He dodged a bullet. And he dodged a rain of bullets. So therefore, God is definitely protecting him. You go,
Yeah.
He actually said he took the bullet. He took a bullet for democracy. That's what he said.
Yeah, almost certainly it's a little piece of shrapnel or glass or something.
Oh, hey, Q.
Oh, they've actually done ballistics tests that, the ear, if you're shot in the cartilage of the ear, it will actually expand and then contract. And there's not going to be much blood because cartilage doesn't contain many blood vessels. So, yeah, it's definitely possible to be shot in the ear, or the ear, the cartilage part of the ear. The fact that the guy hit anything with the shitty AR-15 model he was using with no telescopic sights, just a red dot, normal vision at 130 meters, bloody lucky to hit anything.
So, hey, Flo, or I'm sorry, hey, Q.
Yeah.
So, putting conditions on debating Harris, would you say that President Trump is trying to go with the flow?
Yeah. He's actually laid off on saying that now, about how we're quote unquote running away from him. I'm not sure if he's just gotten tired of that argument.
He'll bring it back up. He's taken himself to complete ravenous troll status. I take him as seriously as NEPy and my little sock puppet and DK now.
Yeah. So one of the things that I did, share this file. So one of the things I did want to talk about is today he was very busy saying anti-abiogenesis comments, but him having no scientific background was making horrible errors, mistaken comments. So let me try to find the one I liked the most was him saying that about Big Bang being, let's see, no, maybe this isn't the right one. Oh, no, this must not be the right tab.
I like his rock comment there. Apparently, he's reduced to only speaking in strawman. He's given up on English.
Yeah. yeah, he definitely isn't speaking English anymore. But he made this comment, thank goodness that hydrogen, helium, lithium, and beryllium were readily available for Big Bang. So he has this like weird idea of, what the Big Bang is. Because as I pointed out, in terms of like even a hydrogen didn't form until like 380 some thousand years after the Big Bang, just, when it got cool enough where, a hydrogen atom was stable. So not to mention, going all the way down to beryllium.
Hydrogen protons, helium nuclei, and lithium nuclei existed quite quickly within the first fragment of a second after the Big Bang. Just they hadn't condensed to atoms. They were still in a plasma form, but a helium nuclei is still a helium nuclei, regardless of whether it has attached electrons or not. So, look, I'd argue that hydrogen, helium, and lithium existed within the first second. Beryllium beryllium didn't form until later after stars had formed. So that didn't exist for, some millions of years until after.
Yeah, so I think the quark gluon plasma, which is I think what you're talking about, where some of these particles started coming out,
No.
that was like very quickly after the Big Bang.
No, that was earlier. So the quark gluon plasma was where there were no atoms, there were no nuclei, there were no protons and neutrons, or at least those that formed were vanishingly short lifespan. But
technically, it would have formed, right? But it would have been like
that only existed for the tiniest fragment of a second.
Yep.
The plasma I'm talking about is the same type of plasma that stars are made of. Essentially, it's just a nuclei with so much energy that their electrons are free swimming. They're not attached to the nuclei at all. So essentially, the universe was so hot. It was up above 3,000 Kelvin for that first 380,000 years. So
So-
at those temperatures, the universe is opaque because plasma is opaque. So, but the atoms themselves, sorry, the nuclei, the protons and neutrons, they had formed and they'd bound themselves into either free protons, a pair of protons and a pair of neutrons for helium, or the equivalent for lithium.
So what's the time? What is like at what point were there free protons in whether it's in plasma form or whatnot?
First
Was it
millionth of a
relatively
second?
soon
Yeah, within the first millionth of a second. Like it's
that we
really
got actual protons forming?
Yep, baryogenesis is the word you'd be looking for.
Which I
Formation
also
of
mentioned.
baryons. Yeah, that's the formation of baryons, which are
Because one of
the
the other things that he had mentioned was how it's the symmetry, right, was so amazing that it could only have been God. I'm not sure if he mentions it here, but it's ironic because the whole baryogenesis. Oh, here it is. So he talks about the brilliance of their spontaneous combustion produced order, symmetry, structure, and continuity. So that baryogenesis is kind of ironic because the whole idea is that it wasn't symmetric, right? If it was symmetric, we would have equal number of matter and antimatter, equal amounts.
And matter wouldn't exist.
Yeah. So no symmetry. I think we disproved God.
That's the weird thing. They keep using this idea of symmetry, but it's just vaguely like people are symmetric, so therefore symmetry. What is symmetry in the universe? You go, well, is the universe symmetrical? No.
Yeah,
or
we know it isn't.
Maybe. You just go, it doesn't really make any sense to ask that question. Like, can you cut the universe in half? Well, no. You can you can draw a line or draw a plane through the Earth, and that will define, one half of the universe and the other half of the universe, but only the half from our perspective.
And also, it won't be symmetric no matter how you cut it.
No, you can't slice it so it's exactly equal on both sides, and they're not mirror images of each other in any possible slice. So symmetry, that type of symmetry doesn't exist either. You can roughly get half the mass of the universe on each side of a line, because at big enough scales, the universe is assumed to be isotropic and homogeneous. So the same in all directions that you look, and the same at all distances that you look.
But not perfectly symmetric even in that case.
No, there's graininess. It's a little bit like a beach. The sand on a beach looks kind of the same, but when you're looking close enough, it's not. So that's the assumption, but there's actually reason to suspect that those assumptions about isotropy and homogeneity are maybe not as accurate as we thought. When we look at the big, look at the CMBR map, you see what appears to be movement. There's more. There's a line across it that seems to imply that things aren't quite as symmetric as we thought they are.
Miranda made a comment, and I was thinking of this as well, because I think you had mentioned people being symmetric. We're vaguely symmetric, right? But not perfectly symmetric.
Yeah, exactly. Some bits are, some bits aren't. Some bits are-ish. Like, even our face is symmetric-ish.
Well, and the heart is not right in the middle.
No, and the two lungs are different sizes because you got the liver getting in the road of one of them on.
Yeah.
And,
So it's a bad argument. I mean, it's the same type of bad argument they make when they talk about intelligent design, when there are so many examples of non-intelligence in the design, if it was a design.
Can any of you, because I can never get the theists to actually define what they mean by intelligent design. Can any of
Oh, no.
you?
You can't. If the problem is, if you make a definition, it immediately gets crushed. So
Sure.
I think they've learned, don't do that because you lose.
The most I've ever been able to get out of them is creator.
Yep.
With a capital C. Sort of like bloody, who is it? Shit, what's he calling himself now? Damonkenny's mate. Brain's gone.
Oh, you're talking about
Jim.
Jim, yeah.
Yeah, it's
My Little Sock Puppet.
Yeah, creator with a capital C, and his argument for God is God with a capital G.
Yeah.
That's about all I've managed to get out of the intelligent design thing. Like, I mean, hell, it's harder to pull questions out of a Christian than a tooth out of a live croc's mouth. It's just, they just don't want to answer.
Yeah, like Clark said, they don't want to commit, because I mean, every time someone brings up, what is it, the laryngeal nerve, it's hilarious how they try to kind of justify that. Because one of them was starting to say, well, that's actually good design, or we don't know that that's a bad design. The only thing is, there are two laryngeal nerves. One actually loops down. The other one doesn't. Actually goes directly. So, which one is the good design?
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is, we completely understand the evolutionary path of why that stupid nerve exists where it exists. There's nothing surprising about it. It comes from the fact that there used to be nerves and, well, there still are nerves and blood vessels run to the gills of fish from which we evolved, or, early fish. Some of those arteries have become the aorta in us, and like, it was fine in the fish because that is the fastest way that you can get from the brain to the gill arch that is being innervated by the that nerve, and from the heart to the gill as well, which is getting its blood supply. But as you stretch the neck out and modify those structures such that the blood supply of that particular gill arch becomes the aorta, and the nerve, the structures evolve to no longer be a gill, but rather to become the larynx. The result is that the two of them have been twisted around each other, and those two structures have moved apart, so they end up, one loops underneath the other, as those two things moved apart from each other over time. And there's no real way. Evolution can't tunnel, so it can't jump from one side to the other. It can only modify by small increments. So as a result, that loop remains where it is, and it is definitely a bad idea. Like, think about a friggin' one of the long-necked dinosaurs. Those things would have had a nerve that's 20 meters long. There's no way that's a good idea.
And if you think about it as evolution, it perfectly makes sense. That is completely explainable that it would work that way if we evolved from fish.
Yeah, and it's the same reason why we've got an eyeball that looks the way it does compared to the eyes of the cephalopods. So in our case, and I can never remember which one came from which, but one of them evolved from skin cells and the other eyeball evolved from nerve cells. And so as a result, in one case, you've got the nerves go through the back of the eyeball, run across the inside surface of the eye, covering up the retina, and the cells face backwards. that's us. And in the case of cephalopods, they work the way you'd expect them to work, that the nerves just come in from behind and the cells face forward. And the fact of the matter is we couldn't leap into a better arrangement because we started with that arrangement of nerves. So we're stuck with it. It makes perfect sense.
I'm just trying to pull up the picture of that demonstrates this, but unfortunately, I'm having a hard time getting this to show. Yeah, okay, I'll try this, but it's hard to see. But here's a portion. So in the fish, this nerve path makes perfect sense. But as you get to a mammal, like a giraffe or us, this is where you have to have that loop. Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell here. Oops. Yeah, okay, that's a little bit better. Yeah, this aortic arch, when it was here to the heart, it made, like there was a direct path, but as it evolved, it had to, the nerve path stayed the same, but the heart, essentially kind of moved down below the neck. So I wish there was like a video that showed this a little bit better.
I think Erica over on Godsick Gibbon has got a video of it.
Okay.
In one of her earlier videos. I mean, it did. But the whole thing of intelligent design, I mean, my whole FU to the creationist argument is look at Australia. And my whole FU to the intelligent creator argument is look at Australia. I mean, bloody koalas. They're an evolution.
Platypus.
The koala is that bloody stupid. It will only eat gum leaves if they are on a branch. If you put a plate of gum leaves in front of it, it won't eat them. It doesn't know what they are. It's, yeah. There's nothing intelligent about a koala.
Or even the panda. Because a panda will only eat eucalyptus tree, but from a nutritional point of view, it's really, really bad.
Yeah, and you can't get the poor boy, the bloody things to shag. So I mean,
actually, that's not true. There's recent research in there. So there's a couple of things I found out about pandas just recently. If you'll indulge me,
always ready.
Turns out that bamboo shoots are remarkably high in protein. Up to 30% of the dry mass of a bamboo shoot is protein, which is pushing it well into the realms where carnivores can actually manage to make use of that. So, yeah, that is kind of a surprising thing, that bamboo shoots are actually far more nutritious than we originally thought they were. Additionally, when it comes to the breeding thing, essentially in the wild, pandas travel. So you get different bamboos producing shoots at different times. So they travel around and eat the shoots as they sort of come up, and it creates this pattern of high and low protein in their diet. And it's that high and low protein that triggers breeding response. When you put them in a zoo or in a small area in an isolated forest, what happens is that they are disconnected from this cycle of protein high and low, and as a result, it breaks the breeding cycle. When they're properly fed, they're about as farsund as black bears. They have no problem reproducing. I thought, oh, that's kind of useful to know.
Well, I mean, they do follow a feeding pattern. I mean, that was known. And I always assumed they did it because the younger the bamboo, the better nutrition they got out of it. So you're saying that it's actually now backed up.
Well, they
Yeah.
move from species to species. So different species have more. Yeah, so at one time of the year, one particular species will have plenty of shoots available, and another time of the year, others will have available. And they have differing protein levels, and they essentially evolved that a path through that year that means that they come into estrus all around the same sort of time. So that way, because they're solitary animals, they live apart most of their life and only come together in a breeding, like into groups at breeding time. But yeah, in this case, it helps make that cycle line up with the gathering. And if that doesn't line up, then no breeding. So yeah, so they should have a lot more luck breeding them in zoos now that they understand this. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of, it makes sense because they always pick the young shoots to go as they move around wherever area that I've seen documentaries of them and papers on them in the wild. They're always eating. They've moved to this area because the shoots are, sprouting this time of year. I think I first heard that back on one of David Attenborough's things, but good to know it's been confirmed.
Yeah. So, and the connection between that and the breeding cycle is now established. Additionally, it turns out pandas are a bear, and not closely related to red pandas, but they are the original bear. They're the oldest of the bears. So they sort of separated from the common ancestor of all bears the longest ago of any of the bears. And so they've been, them been around for millions of years. So if they weren't able to breed quite well over that time, they would have gone extinct long before now. But essentially, they used to roam pretty well throughout Southeast Asia, had a really large range, but the Ice Age reduced the rainfall levels and reduced their range somewhat. Around about 2 million years ago, that started, and then along came people and chopped up all of the forests that they lived into little pockets. So now the ones that exist live in like 30 different pockets, separated into sort of 20 or 30 bears. So as a result, the inbreeding has to be starting to become a problem as well.
Well, the diet back then, if you go all the way back, it probably wasn't like now, whereas eucalyptus specific, not eucalyptus, bamboo specific.
Yeah, it would have been a mixed diet, and they supplement with bamboo.
Yeah,
because they discovered bamboo's quite nutritious, and then over time their guts got a little bit bigger, and they evolved their sort of quasi thumb.
And all that is like evolutionary science. None of that came from the Bible, right?
No, none of it did. Miranda, apparently the red panda comes from a word in Nepali, and it was the first one named, and the black and white pandas weren't discovered for 30 or 50 years after the red pandas, and people just thought, they look the same, so we'll call them a panda.
All very interesting. I was going to say, has anyone worked out who that Steve SG3UZ is? He's only turned up in the last few weeks.
Yeah.
Carrying on about empathy is not a virtue, and yeah. all
I
that.
would say he's one of the kind of the more stupid ones on the comment section. So his whole thing is this whole atheists don't have morality because only religion can be moral. So he said
Yeah,
some stupid
that's
things.
it. I mean, I just basically play with him. The only one that I really take issue with is basically Bob, the American Catholic. I made him my personal chew toy. I've had enough of the. You don't need to make shit up to make your religion look good, and that's all he's doing is just making complete shit up. No Catholic clergy has ever sexually abused anyone.
That was bad.
Yeah, I'll beat him over the head with that. It's like he's
But Steve wants to defend slavery in the Bible because his argument is the Christian abolitionists used the Bible to abolish slavery. So he suggests asking AIs what the Christian abolitionist argument was. And the funny thing is, he didn't want to ask his AI about what the argument was for the slavers to enslave the blacks, or at least the Christian slavers.
Seriously, I missed that. I mean, I saw the AI bit, but I didn't really click. He's asking Google to give him. Oh my god!
Yeah, he was asking. He's basically saying if you asked AI, it would tell you that the Bible was used to abolish slavery. And so the comment I made for that was like right away, okay, why don't you think for yourself instead of trying to use AI to defend his views? And also, he's the one who continually goes on about objective morality, but Christianity can be used to both justify slavery and abolish slavery. So where is the objectivity there?
And not only can it definitely was used on both sides, because the southern slave states definitely published. What was the name of the
Slave
Bible?
Yeah.
Yeah, the leader, the president of the Confederate States,
Jefferson
wrote about, cited the Bible and therefore his right to own slaves.
Oh,
so
I mean, they actually made a version of the Bible for the slaves where it just stressed the slave part and the part about obeying the slave masters.
Yeah, that's correct. Hang on, talking about the Bible, I actually found, with the help of she who must be obeyed, found some new versions that I had never heard of. And I'll tell you what, one of them is absolutely, it'll have you rolling around in laughter just by reading, the first bit of the Genesis story. Hang on, it's called the Message Bible. So have a look at that one. And there's also a version of the Bible called am I saying that right? Philippi, PHILLEP version of the Bible. Yeah, the Philippe version of the Bible. 2 brand new ones that have popped up. And
Wait, what is the source of that Bible?
The Message Bible is from, hang on, looking.
Oh yeah, the Message Bible's a fun one.
Oh, you found it? Yeah, it's from it was only done, I think, published in bloody, when was it? 2000 and something. Some American twit did it. Sorry, all my Seppo mates know that I'm only joking. A pastor, author, and poet, Eugene Peterson. And it's a right laugh. You can get the first few chapters online for free, and I mean its account of it's just, you're just going to laugh. I can't describe it. You got to read it. And
This is the message.
yeah, it's a
you can get the whole thing over
for free.
on Bible Gateway. Yeah. Bible Gateway's got like 50 versions of the Bible available there. It's my go-to.
Yeah.
Well, that's just in English, right? There's probably more than 50.
Yeah, but then it's just the English version. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they've got everything from 21st century King James Version through to, what do we got here? Oh, come on. Stupid. Try it. Nope, can't see. There's something below Revised Standard Version Catholic Edition. But the my go-to is the New Revised Standard Version Anglicised, the NRSVA. That's the one that apparently scholars use when they're going to read the Bible in English, if they're not reading it in the Greek or Hebrew,
Latin or Hebrew. Yeah, that's the one that they use. Biblical scholars use the most, whether they be theist or atheist. But it's just so amazing to me that, you know, I've been learning about Christianity ever since I was born, and there are still people who think, oh no, I can do a better translation of that. I'm going to make it sound like this. It's insane.
So, Blarg, you said the Message Bible is in the Bible Gateway?
Yep.
Oh, it doesn't. I can't seem to find it here.
Yeah, the Message, MSG.
Oh, the
yeah.
Message. Oh, shoot. Can't seem to search here. Oh.
No, I don't think it is.
No, I don't think it is.
It's under the Living Bible. Sorry, it's between Living Bible and Modern English Version.
Oh, here it is.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The monosodium glutamate Bible.
Hey, you beat me to it. Well done.
Clever.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, just have if you can, Q, just
Now we'll remember.
scroll down and show the creation story in it.
Oh, Genesis?
Yeah, Genesis.
First this. What does that mean? First this.
Yeah, don't know.
So they're just like making things up. All you see, all you don't see. Earth was a soup of nothingness, a bottomless, and this is like completely different than the actual text.
Oh yeah.
So
God spoke light, and light appeared.
In an effort to increase modern understanding of the text, they've completely diluted the original meaning intended of the text.
Well,
so
according to Wikipedia,
this is an instance where something got lost in translation.
Yeah, according to Wikipedia, it's an idiomatic paraphrasing, commentary, and translation of the Bible into modern American English using a dynamic equivalence translation approach. I'm sure those words mean something.
I'm surprised, and this might be going on, but they should be using Gen AI to do a better translation of the original text.
Oh, hang on. It must be a bay. Just found the Message Bible, Psalm 51:7-15. Soak me in your laundry and I'll come out clean. Scrub me and I'll have a snow white life. That is what
I'll
this
have a snow
Bible
white
says.
Huh, what?
Psalm 51:7-15.
I have it on the screen.
Yeah. So I mean, this is getting ridiculous.
Huh?
Wait, so 51:7-15. So
Yeah. Soak me in your laundry.
let me show
That
you
sounds
what.
dirty.
Where am I? Okay. So this is the NIV version.
Yeah.
Cleanse me with hyssop, and I will be clean. Wash me, and I will be whiter than snow. Let me hear joy and gladness. Let the bones you have crushed rejoice. Hide your face from my sins and blot out all my iniquity.
That
Interesting.
sort of makes sense.
I mean, I guess you could say it's sort of similar.
Mm.
Have a look at Mark 14, and then punt on down to 51-52.
Okay. A young man was following along. All he had was bedsheet. Some of the men grabbed him, but he got away running off naked, leaving them holding the sheet.
This was
What does that mean?
the unknown young man who was with Jesus when he was arrested,
Oh,
Yes.
wearing
what
only
was
a
it, Mark?
bedsheet.
Mark
Yep,
15?
Mark 14.
Oh, 14. Let
Yeah,
me just
so this
show
is
that
where
in
he
the NIV version.
The strange,
it's pretty close. He's wrapped in a
naked
linen.
man.
Yeah, so this is when Jesus gets arrested. They come and find him. They come in the night to arrest him and find him with a naked man just wrapped in linens or a bedsheet, depending upon your translation.
This is the first time I've seen this. Wait, so where was the young man?
Gethsemane.
So yeah, go.
Wait, no,
just go
like
was
he with the Bible, with Jesus, wearing nothing
Yeah.
but a linen garment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What the?
I found.
I know. I lived down it recently too. I saw someone mention. Just go, holy shit! How did I not know about the naked man?
And that's one of the strange things that the Bible pops up, and when you just weird little things like that. Also, the fact that in the Greek and in the classical Latin version of the Bible, the number of Roman legionaries who were sent out to arrest him was a cohort. And mine's drawing a blank. That's roughly about 600 men from memory. So he was not just considered, a radical wandering rabbi. Rome really thought he was a danger to their rule, because you don't send out. Thanks, Paul. You don't send out 480 soldiers to arrest just a guy's typical Jewish rabbi wandering around. So that indicates that the Romans did see him as a proper threat. And of course, our resident biblical scholar, NEPy, has no idea. He can't say how many people were sent to arrest Jesus and his mob.
I imagine Jesus had probably quite a bit of following. They were probably fervent fanatics.
Oh yeah, like most of the Jewish sex at that sex at that time. They were just fanatical. That thing out of the life of Brian, the Judean People's Republic Front and all that, the suicide squads, that was pretty much what was happening at the time.
By the way, this if you read this section, this is the NIV version. It says Judas went to Jesus and said, "Rabbi," and kissed him. The men seized Jesus and arrested him. Then one of those standing near drew his sword and struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear. So what the MSG version says is that, straight to Jesus and said, "Rabbi," and kissed him. The others then grabbed him and roughed him up.
Oh. Well, losing an ear is pretty rough.
I mean, and nods, winkers are, But I just thought, just to throw some hilarity in there, I thought I'd share the Message Bible with you because it's hilarious.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the naked man story is only found in Mark. Curiously, Luke and Matthew decided to leave that bit out.
It doesn't make sense. Why is that in there?
Yeah, well, that is a question, which may be why they left it out. But it does imply that perhaps Jesus was found with let's call him a friend.
A
bed
young
when he was
man.
arrested. Yeah.
It wasn't just a man; it was a young man.
Yes, a certain young man.
Maybe Mark wanted to make sure. Maybe Mark wanted to make sure that he included the bare essentials.
Here's another fun wording. All the disciples bailed on him.
Bailed.
Apparently, in this version, Jesus doesn't quite have the riz he thought he does.
Yeah. All the guys in the hood came after you. Drive what?
The irony of this is, if you compare it to Jonestown, they did not flee. They all killed themselves. So Jim Jones's followers were far more fervent than Jesus's were, according to this story.
But Jones's followers didn't have, a bunch of Romans with swords drawn.
Yeah,
true.
See, Jesus only provided spiritual aid, whereas Jim Jones, he provided Kool-Aid.
Kool-Aid.
That's the difference.
That's the difference.
Okay, I get it now.
Yeah, I heard that coming a mile away.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
You all would have seen my my standard reply about Jesus being gay or liking men or whatever. I quote Gospel of Thomas 1:14. All these books that never made it never got canonized. They really do paint a rather different picture of this Christ bloke. You sort of, you can see the political reason why some of the books were left out and the Gospels were left out, because this is not very good. This women being equal. No, we can't have that. But yeah,
that's
fun.
where I mentioned like the difference between the Pauline doctrine and the Petron doctrine. I mean, they say very different things.
That's right.
Like about homosexuality, about women, and all that. Because Jesus, for some reason, never spoke out against homosexuality, but Paul does.
Yeah, the fact is, Paul had nothing to do with Jesus. He had nothing to do with. He had very little to do with the cult itself. He kind of just invented his own, and that just got mashed into it.
Well, I don't think he had nothing to do with it. He basically is an opportunist, or the way I see
opportunist.
He's an opportunist who just took this existing cult and figured out, hey, how do I make this stronger? And like, for example, with the circumcision thing, he knew that was a something that was blocking members from joining his cult. So he said, well, no, you don't need circumcision.
That's the whole Council of Jerusalem meeting.
Yep.
Was just about that. Nothing else. And that's about the only time he actually met in person with Peter.
Yeah, it was about circumcision.
Yeah, Paul, he was just a better he was more politically savvy.
Well, and even
I
that
think-
whole thing about grace, right? That you basically don't have to do anything. You don't have to be good. You don't have to be just or anything. All you have to do is believe. That's all Pauline doctrine, that the whole idea of the grace. So Christianity is probably like one of the most lazy religions out there. With most other religions, you actually have to work at getting in. But with Christianity, you can just join any denomination, and that's it. You're in. You got your ticket to heaven.
Yeah. Oh,
Have you?
one thing, if I can just jump in.
Yep. Go on.
As much as I dislike Christian music or that sort of thing, I do love the version of John Farnham and the whole Jesus Christ Superstar. His version is fantastic. And to hear John Farnham sing Amazing Grace with, I've forgotten the name of the famous black gospel singer, is actually really moving. So I can appreciate the music. The message, grace, just it eludes me. I don't understand it. Never been able to. Not even, my tutor, Brother Fossil, was able to explain it so that I could understand it. But yeah, if you just look up John Farnham, Amazing Grace, and have a listen. You can understand why some people get that. Oh, I can feel something in my heart, in my bosom when I listen to that. It's sort of like, it's just a bloody beautiful.
Well, and a lot of the evangelical denominations, they really use music and not. I mean, they're basically relying on pop music to generate this fervor. So a lot of those music is catchy. I mean, it's kind of rehash of like actual real music, but they use it and they use it to good effect. If you have, so I've gone to many of these services where they essentially have a band, and in some places it's like much bigger, and it's loud and it's all kind of inspiring, and you are in that environment and you do kind of feel, quote unquote, feel God.
Yeah,
it's all manufactured.
Yeah, I did. That was the first hint that the woman I was engaged to had some very strange Catholic views. Was she had all this Christian rock music, and I went, "Oh, this is weird. Why have you got that?" And they were singing about the Adam and Eve, and I went, "You can't really, okay, it's nice music, but you can't really believe that." And she said, "Oh no, yes I do." And that was my first hint and introduction into the wacky world of Catholic cults. Opus Dei, they were members of the Opus Dei cult. Just weird. And yeah, no, not get married. It's off. Can't be with someone who is in a cult, and one that basically had been excommunicated
at the time
by by the second cousin, my Pope Giovanni. They only got back into the Catholic Church after his death. It's very strange. Oh, anyway, that's me. Yep, keep going, people.
Can I just circle us back to Paul?
Yep.
There's some discussion about Paul jumping in and taking advantage. But I'm not sure if any of you have seen my discussion about Paul and temporal lobe epilepsy.
No.
No,
Does that ring a bell?
doesn't ring a bell. No.
Are people familiar with what temporal lobe epilepsy is?
Yeah.
I am not.
So for those who are unaware, temporal lobe epilepsy is not like regular epilepsy in that it doesn't give you necessarily, the shakes and the shudders and the seizure. But the way the seizure manifests itself is essentially as a feeling rather than a physical action, and it results in people having what are described as profoundly spiritual experiences. Now, that sounds really interesting, doesn't it? You get this, you get an aura, you can get deja vu, and you see and hear and feel things, and a
Even
connectedness to
smell,
the universe.
if I remember. Is that the one that's associated with smell as well?
There may well be. It's multiple sort of forms of it, but this profoundly spiritual experience thing is an interesting part of it. Now, there's a version of it called Geschwin syndrome, named after a guy by the name of Geschwind who described it. And it's the one that's really particularly interesting. So it has the temporal lobe epilepsy that results in and like it can come on at any time. It's caused by a small lesion in the temporal lobe, which may or may not be visible on an MRI. But Geschwin causes, it's a sort of a chronic version of the epilepsy as well that results in changes in personality which intensify over time. So you'll have like a first seizure, and that can happen at any time in your life, really. And you can have that may be the only one you ever have, but you might have others during your life. And Geschwin also comes with 5 sort of primary symptoms, which are interesting. So there's hypergraphia, which is you're really inclined to continue. You write a lot, prolific writer, and the fact that we have at least 7 and possibly 10 letters of Paul's that survived all this time suggests that there were hundreds or maybe even thousands of letters written by that man during his life. He wrote prolifically, so that ticks off that box. Hyper-religiosity, well, obviously. There's a thing called circumstantiality, which is a curious one. It's a non-linear sort of thought pattern where the person drifts off and comes back and or repeats themselves a lot. And if you have a look through the way in which Paul writes, you see this all the way through it. He like just in one thing, he was talking about the joy of Jesus or something, the joy of God, the joy of the Lord, and that gets mentioned 6 times in one passage in one of his letters. So it's like over and over and over that happens. There's what's called an intensified mental life, which is a strange term, but basically it means you're really hyper focused on these sorts of things. And the other one, which seems out of place but really fits with so-called prophets, is atypical sexuality, and it's almost always reduced or completely absent. They're asexual people mostly, and that is described in some detail in Paul's letters as well. So he basically ticks off every single one of the elements of Geschwin syndrome. And if you read his sort of story, he was sort of struck blind by a profound feeling and connection, and this epiphany, and that absolutely describes a temporal lobe epileptic seizure. So there's pretty good reason to suspect that Paul had one of these, and that's like he may well have been a real, true, honest believer. But you know, he had his own way of doing things.
That's actually very convincing.
That gels with everything that I've read of Peter, including in the original Latin. Yeah, you're right. It fills in some of the all the gaps really, and explains his sudden strangeness.
Miranda points out that this could be also Joan of Arc and Hildegard von Bingen.
Yeah, that has definitely come up before too. People definitely suspect that, Miranda. Yeah, it exactly fits. You start having these sudden, profound experiences, and then you get these changes in your personality and behavior. And people interpret that as being, touched by God. Why wouldn't you if you don't know any better? That is exactly what it seems like. So, interestingly, about a year ago, I was talking to a person here on AXP who came out of the gate really sort of angry and antsy and just, typical theist. But he wrote these enormously long replies to everything anyone asked. So anyhow, over a course of about 150 comment long thread, I started to tweak on something, and it almost certainly turns out that guy has the same exact condition. So yes, I noticed this, the way in which he would write extremely long-winded responses that meandered and then came back to the point again. But also he described he had his first sort of one of these events when he was 14, and he's had a couple since, and that tweaked me. So at one point I sort of carefully asked him, I was like saying, I'm just going to ask you some questions. You're absolutely welcome to say I'm not going to answer that. But I asked him the question about his sexuality and said, do you think you're more or less attracted to people than the regular person is? And his response was that he was not, like, he understood why people would be attracted, but it just wasn't interesting to him. And he just, so yes, I directed him to that, and he was really good, actually. It was one of the most productive conversations I'd had in a long time. But yeah, almost certainly this fella suffers from the same condition. So I met one of them on the in these forums, which is surprising.
When was this?
Yeah, I'd just like to point out that I did. Sunday thought for some reason we had blocked him or something, and you got the feeling that he's not the flavour. But yeah, just wanted to say, hey, mate, I was only taking the piss, we all admire you, and don't be a stranger.
Yeah, and it's hard to detect sometimes you can't detect the humor in these comments. So yeah, I thought you were just joking as well, Ook. But I think Sunday may have thought you didn't like his jokes.
I must admit, I've been more focused on the live interaction than the posts, but mainly because I found it I always love learning new stuff and tying ideas together. But yeah, just so that I think when he comes back, we'll get everything sorted out anyway.
Yep,
we're all mates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had missed the comment where he was wondering if I blocked him, and he go, "Oh no, most definitely not. No, Sunday's part of the team." So, yeah, no, he's one of the usual gang of likelies that we have in the group. So, no, definitely not.
Yeah, he's OG, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I made sure to comment and let him know that, I mean, he's all good with me.
And I think that's something we have to be a little bit careful about, is because I think so many, the toxic soup that the AXB comments has become, people can feel a little bit left out, picked on. Why do I even bother? That sort of thing. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I get the feeling that there are quite a few of the regular commentators that are just, they can't be, it's affecting them mentally. They need to not take it so seriously, maybe go off, watch some good comedy or some hardcore porn and, clean the mind out and come back. But yeah, just with all I mean, especially on the comments that we all tend to go through, other atheist and secular sites, it's just something that I've noticed a little bit that I think everyone should be aware of, just to, reinforce that we are a community, and yeah, we don't ostracize anyone, theist or whatever, as long as you can, you don't try and shove it down our throat. Well, we're happy to talk to you. And I mean, Neil's classic case.
Yeah.
He's our...
Yeah, I mean, I think we do. I mean, the kind of things that we sometimes comes up are kind of passionate topics, whether it's abortion or, just so because it's about your personal belief. And I mean, I think if it was someone just came in and looked at the comments, I think they would see a lot of our comments to the regular trolls as, potentially being abusive, right? Because some of the languages that we use.
Yeah.
But I mean, for people who've seen this, right, who've seen these guys post these kind of things over and over, and also how they respond to atheist people who comment to them, you can definitely see that they, I guess I should say they deserve it in a way. We're giving back as much as they give to us. But I think we do have to kind of be careful sometimes of kind of like immediately doing a knee-jerk reaction when we see someone making a certain comment and mistaking their sarcasm maybe as, oh, this guy is like just like the other, abusive theists, and they're not.
Sure. And so when I'm commenting to somebody for the first time, I do try to at least keep it conversational and asking them, okay, so what do you mean by this? What do you mean by that? Like actually trying to find out what it is that they're saying. It's only when they start getting into the name calling, it's only when they start threatening hell, that sort of thing, or when they start, going down the troll avenue. That's why what I mean when I try to use the tit for tat response model. That if they're conversational, if they're pleasant, I try to be pleasant back. Maybe I'm not always as successful as I would like to be, but I do actually care what these people have to say. And I do want to hear them. And when I point out that someone's using, this particular logical fallacy or that particular logical fallacy, it's not to wag my finger at them, and it's not to do anything other than to just say, hey, look, I see what you're saying, but here's where here's where the logic of what you're thinking about. Here's where your presentation, here's where your comments don't quite have the punch that you think that they do. And so trying to get back to the facts. and just kind of keep it about facts rather than feelings.
And
So
the other thing is to look at their, some of the previous comments.
Sure.
You only can see the past 3, but you get a sense of, where they stand on, looking at previous comments.
Sure. And I'm not always the best at. I know that I can be kind of a sledgehammer at times, and I do try to be a little better when I start off with people. I mean, there are obvious exceptions to that. NEPy, Jim, DK, like Theory of David, the ones that I'm convinced are just there to stir the pot and to rile people up. So, but if it's somebody random that I don't recognize, I at least try to be nice to them. Maybe I'm not always successful at that.
I mean, I come off, well, I type generally the way I speak, which is I swear a lot, and thank Christ for spell check, because I am dyslexic. I have a form of dyslexia that I can't phonetically, my brain can't work out phonetics. So I'm horrible at spelling, but I can look at a word and say, damn, that's spelt wrong. But I can't sound it out in my head. It's just one of those things. But when someone new comes in and they're trying to talk to, say, someone like NEPy or someone like Chris, Maisie, I'd like to give them a little bit of background on the person they're talking to. With NEPy, he's just insane. And with Chris, well, he's a young Earth creationist who thinks the world is flat. Yeah.
What's the other one who's claiming that anyone who thinks the world is flat is crazy?
Luke.
Shayla.
Yeah, using his mother's account. The ex-homosexual furry.
Initially, I was like very sympathetic to him because it seemed like he was kind of dealing with some issues, and he's mentioned, I mean, what kind of weird comment about being a furry, or at least was, and so I thought he had some issues, but then I just don't have any more patience for him, just because he's essentially trolling. He's saying things that, calling atheists flat earthers when we obviously aren't. So it just seems like he's just trolling.
Yeah, that's just straight dishonesty. And it's a direct sort of attempt to try and turn around the argument, which is a clear one that the Bible, or at least the people who wrote the Bible, believed the Earth was flat. That thing in Isaiah 40:23 is with the people like grasshoppers gaze down on the circle of the Earth.
Yeah, it's actually I can't remember what channel it was on, but the whole Aaron Ra, it was the whole thing of the Genesis and the Earth being flat and all that is actually comes from the proto-Jewish belief, if you will, when they had multiple gods.
Yeah.
And then moved over to monotheism. So, yeah. And it is. Just read it in Latin and you can see they're saying the world is flat. No if, buts, or maybe.
Yeah, the interesting thing about that Genesis 1 account, if you think about, just sort of zoom out a little bit and look at what's being described, essentially the mythology there is a first sunrise, which makes a whole lot of sense from the perspective of, what do you think the beginning of the first thing would have looked like? Well, it would have looked like the first day the sun rose. And that's exactly what's being described. there's light, and then later on there's there's a wind, and these are all just elements of the sun coming up.
Yeah, it very much resembles the Aboriginal dreaming or dream time to the rest of the world. Yeah, it's just it goes back to even before, when the Jews were multiple gods. So I mean, it's just to carry on from that.
There's a lot of that in the Bible. There's actually there's a god in the Bible performs a miracle that overpowers the god of the Bible. So one of the human sacrifices in the Bible is the king of Moab sacrifices his son, and when they're at war with the Israelites. So clearly he wasn't sacrificing his son to the god of the Bible. He'd be sacrificing his son to the god of the Moabs, whichever god happened to be, probably Baal.
Yeah, thanks, Paul.
Yeah, he immediately wins the war, and the Israelites pack up and go. So, so the god of the Bible gets overpowered by that god in the Bible. So much for omnipotent.
But according to NEPy, a god lacks nothing. So that can't be true.
Oh, I got a whole list of things the god lacks. Like the god lacks a fear of pedo priests.
Oh yeah,
it's NEPy's theory of where hell is and why volcanoes happen. I mean,
that's hilarious.
The man just needs to take the drugs the doctors are giving him.
Yeah, I mean, it's so clear the whole idea of this omni-god thing wasn't there from the beginning, especially in the Old Testament.
Not. It's that development. It's essentially a game of telephone you can see happening from the start of the Bible through to the New Testament. My God's bigger than yours because my God's, it's not just our little localized God of war and thunder. But it's a bigger God. It's more powerful than all the other gods. And what's the most powerful God? Is the one that's the only one that exists. So yeah, it gets bigger and bigger. Oh yeah, Miranda, you're right. You can't fight iron chariots.
Yeah. Can anyone remember a guest on the line, biblical scholar, wrote a book about the evolution of religion? I think.
Oh.
Does it ring a bell with anyone? Maybe in the last couple of months.
Vaguely.
I'm going to have to go back and look at it because I've got a few credits on Audible. I want to have a listen read to that. Sounds very interesting.
Hold on, let me see if I can track it down.
Have you guys noticed sort of the migration of the hosts into the line?
Yes.
Like JMike was there relatively recently.
Got to say, I'm a big fan of JMike. I really like the way the fella talks. He's a lot. He's very, very good.
And a lot of people don't like him because the way he speaks, he doesn't dumb anything down.
Yeah.
And
he's wordy.
I don't think you should have to. I mean, if you're going to argue for a god, bring your A game.
So here's a recent complaint from Monkey about JMike and his epistemic nihilism. And he keeps on bringing this, I guess JMike must have had a debate with some guy named Chase. And he mentions it here. Oh, Chase Haggard. I haven't had a chance to see that, but JMike definitely is. He's not. He's definitely a non-realist, moral non-realist. So he doesn't believe in objective morality. But just because he's a nihilist doesn't mean it's a bad position or the wrong position. So Monkey just basically uses nihilism as his argument, and you need to provide a little bit more than that.
Yeah, he just basically defines it as a bad thing, and therefore he wins.
Yeah.
And you just go, yeah.
Has anyone caught the? I know Truth Wanted is dying as a
Oh, yeah.
as a show, but they actually had the last week they had a Christian co-host.
Oh,
I
wow.
did Travis, someone or other, at New Evangelists, and his progressive Christianity considers Christian nationalism as the greatest threat to a stable world, and he's on Truth Wanted. So yeah, I think it was this week's just past show. So well worth going and having a listen to it, because yeah, it's nice to actually see a Christian coming out and supporting secular things, and standing up against, willing to say no to other Christians who are just being dicks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
being secular doesn't mean anti-religion. You can still be religious and be a Christian and still believe in a secular government.
yeah. I mean, this whole thing of the only time a God impacts your hang on a second. Sorry, I thought. Oh yeah, someone's at the front door. It's a very interesting show. Did you have a? Oh yes, the last call they took was John from Canada. The idiot. The proof of God is on American money. Twit, and this guy from at New Evangelist ripped him to shreds. It was wonderful to see.
I'll
Yeah,
have to
I
have
think
a look.
these shows are having a tough time getting theists to call in, and I definitely the line gets a lot more theists, and I think that really comes down to the hosts who advertise this. Matt probably has a lot of people who are coming at him, a lot of theists coming at him, so he gets people dialing in. But these other shows, outside of Forrest coming on, even the AXP, they have a tough time getting callers.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at the premier atheist call-in show on YouTube, I mean, Jimmy's got a cupboard. He's
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to compete. That's the thing. Jimmy Snow's gone and done his work, and he's turned it into a, like, the dude's a machine, and turned it into his business. And when you treat it that way, you get a really different outcome to treating it like a hobby.
Well,
Yeah.
and the issue is that the AXP is nonprofit, whereas Jimmy, he's paying the host.
Yeah, that's right. It's a commercial enterprise.
I also believe that Jim's offered to, if anyone wants to see his account books, he's happy to show them, because some people, you're only doing it for the money. Not really. He's not making that much.
Yeah, and he's working, 100 hours a week to do it too.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little worried a few months ago that with all the new shows he was bringing on, who was going to do this? You don't burn out. It's not worth it.
And he has some health problems as well.
Yeah.
While we're recommending channels, if you haven't come across Religion for Breakfast yet, that is an absolute top-notch channel. The guy's a seriologist, I think so. And does deep dives into various sort of topics, not just in Christianity or Judaism or the likes, but also various religions around the world. I think his latest video is actually about atheism. I haven't watched that one yet.
Oh, definitely check it out. Yeah.
He's really, like, he puts all of the like, he does huge amounts of research, puts it all on the table, so he approaches it as a scholar. So he is a scholar, so he approaches it that way.
I mean,
And also, if you guys haven't subscribe to Dan McClellan. He's a lot of good information on the Bible.
yeah, I mean, another show that's another channel, Metrodon. He's a linguist, and he mainly does weapons, armor, that sort of thing. But every now and again, he'll go into he's a Catholic, but critical analyzing of biblical texts and meanings, and it's, you know, Christians don't make up shit. It's here. You can't deny it. You know. Yeah, Metrodon, a rather good channel, especially if you like weapons, armor, and history. Roman back. It's rather good.
All right, so we've come to the
I
end
don't
of
think our younger creationist is going to show.
Yeah, I was sure he wasn't going to show, but well, relatively sure.
We live in hope.
So maybe next week we'll see. I can't seem to get any of these guys to actually be even interested in talking to us, despite them claiming that they want to talk to atheists. But maybe we'll have better luck next week. And I want to thank you guys for coming on again weekly, you regulars, and you regulars on the live chats. So same time next week, guys.
Yeah, once again, great work by QE, the world's greatest ventriloquist. Because we are Legion.
Yep.
All right, fellas.
All right, you guys.
Everybody, have a great week.
And I'll see everyone in the comments.